Ladies and gentlemen, whether you've been watching chess for a long time or are just getting into the game, you likely will have realized by this point, chess is hard. But in today's video, I'm going to show you how to elevate your game to become an alien level chess player. I'm going to be showing you a game played between two grandmasters here in early 2025. And this game looks like you fell asleep while having a fever and dreamed of a chess game in your head. Doesn't matter what level you are, but if you pay attention, hopefully you'll learn a few things in this video and apply it to your own games. I'm not sure you're going to hit 10,000, but let's try to get even a fraction of the way there. Here we go. This was a game played yesterday, maybe at this point a couple of days ago, in Tashkent, in Uzbekistan. With the white pieces, we have Shamsiddin Vokhidov, young Uzbek grandmaster. With the black pieces, we have Sanan Shugirov, who is a Russian grandmaster, but recently has started representing Hungary. And this game was absolutely bananas. White opened with the move e4. Most popular first move. Black responded symmetrically with pawn to e5. Both players with an hour and a half on the clock, and every time they make a move, they gain 30 seconds. White plays knight f3, most common second move, targeting this pawn. Most common second move, I should say, really against pawn to e5. Black defense, all good. And, you know, this is like beginner's chess. I mean, this is, if you're watching this as a 200, if you're watching this as a person who just learned chess, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to bring out your pawn, knight, bishop. That applies even if you are a top grandmaster. Black now plays knight f6. Now, point of this move is to immediately attack white's center, which is why white protects it. Now, beginners watching this video, some of you may try to go for the fried liver attack. At the high level, that doesn't work because they have memorized enough that they know how to stop it. Although fried liver and Traxler counterattack are two absolutely fantastic openings for beginner and intermediate players. If you don't know about the Traxler or the fried liver, you have to look it up on YouTube or check it out on Chessly. You could try it for free. Those openings are incredible. But at this level, they play solidly. They play smart chess. They play slow chess. Both sides castling early, but so far following all beginner protocol, right? Shugirov developed the bishop a little bit more passively. Traditional wisdom tells you that putting the bishop on c5 is slightly more active. And now we have the first kind of interesting moment. Here, generally, what white does is play for c3, try to advance in the center, and protect their center with a rook. That's normally what happens. Vokhidov obviously has an idea here, and he plays knight b to d2. Now, to the untrained eye, that is a very, very ridiculous move because you do not put your knight where it's supposed to be. Also, you block your bishop. Where's your knight going? There, right? That doesn't look correct. Why wouldn't it just go there in one move? Well, as you get higher and higher on the elo ladder, you know, your ideas become a little bit more concrete. White is going for a setup here where you're going to put your pawn out, probably drop your bishop back, and put the knight where the bishop is standing. And then maybe even put the knight there without ever moving your rook. Okay, let's see. Black plays d6. Another option here for black was to play more actively, putting the pawn in the center in two squares like this. Obviously, then, you know, Vokhidov would have had something prepared. And in high-level chess, if you're going to be coming to the board with something that you have analyzed already, it means you've memorized certain things. You probably know how to put black under some pressure with the move d5. Okay, black plays d6, and now we see Vokhidov obviously utilizing his strategy. Going to probably drop his bishop back and then put his knight over here. The computer actually really likes this approach by white. It blesses it. It gives white a little plus 0.3 advantage, although at high level, that doesn't really mean anything. Black now kicks out the bishop and takes some more central space with the c-pawn, right? Black couldn't move the c-pawn, so black moved his knight, and now he goes here, clamping down on white's center, disallowing white from an expansion, but we see white's idea in action. That is why the knight went to c4. And now we're going to see the other idea by white. Basically, black has 3 pawns on the dark squares. All right, now we're moving up. You know, like I said, I want you to learn a few things from this video. We're moving up in terms of learning something that's more intermediate than beginner. When your opponent has a lot of pawns on the same color complex, like this, these squares are weak. The opposite color could be weak. If a lot of pawns are in the same color, the other squares could be weak, especially if they're far advanced. If a pawn is on a home square, hasn't moved yet, obviously can just come forward and fight for those squares. So white will try to get to these squares, maybe even with that knight. Now, which pieces for black defend those squares? That one. So probably we're going to see a trade of bishop for knight, because that way the light squares for black will be weakened and made stronger for white's pieces. Shugirov goes back. Now we have bishop g5. So we have seen the full implementation of the plan here from Vokhidov. Black responds, but notice, folks, both sides have now made 10 moves. Notice how all the knights, all the bishops, all the pawns are out. The queens and rooks haven't been touched. This is really how you should play chess. Develop your pieces, castle, centralize your queen, bring in your rooks if you can. Right, that's going to happen next. Now white makes a preparatory move. This is called a prophylactic move, securing control over 2 more squares, not allowing black's knight in. Black plays rook c8. Obviously a natural move, simply bringing the rook to the c-file. Shugirov spent a little bit of time on that move. Now white plays h3. All right, he's just also making improvements, not allowing anything to go to g4. Shugirov now attacks the bishop and says, look, it's about time. It's about time. Vokhidov captures. Now, he could have went here, but I don't really know, that's not really the point. Now we have this. Now white is about to secure control over 2 very juicy light squares while not allowing black's knight in, and while this bishop isn't really going to do anything else. And after queen d7, you would love to just rush in like this. The only reason this doesn't work is that black would probably get your bishop, but also he doesn't actually have to take. Like, black will move the bishop back to d8 and actually in the future maybe even launch a counterattack with the f-pawn in the future. Or just trade, right? Like, black is going to be fine. So queen d7, rook e1, very tense game, but it's about to really open up. We're about to go into another galaxy in terms of chess. Black plays g6, okay, normal. Now, Vokhidov shows the entire plan of his from the 7th move. This a-pawn. Now, 7-8 moves later, that pawn advances. It is indirectly protected by the rook. And in the future, you will be putting pressure on black's queenside pawns. All right? Because in a few moves, while Shugirov was trying to create some counterplay, he's trying to bring his pawns, trying to start some sort of attack, Vokhidov is just advancing that pawn. And black is in a tough spot, because if black captures, you give a check, you get in with the rook, and you have pressure all over the place. You completely ripped open the position for black, who is now not doing very well at all. Black is not happy here, which is why Shugirov plays b6. And now it looks like white's attack has been a bit thwarted. But still, Vokhidov continues to apply the pressure. The king goes to h7, and now the knight drops back to d2 to maybe go to the middle. You also have ideas like this. It's very common. It's very common when you're on the same side castle that your h-pawn, your rightmost pawn, or if you're playing black, your leftmost pawn, goes in to kind of mess around with the pawn structure because it doesn't really weaken your own king. Queen e6, knight c4. Everything Vokhidov is doing is very nice. The position does not look particularly pleasant to defend as black, and at some point in a position like this, white will have a breakthrough. Vokhidov misses his chance, though. He had a moment here. He could have sacrificed the knight. This would have been his breakthrough. He would have been attacking the rook. Then he would have dropped back. And then he probably could have expanded a little bit, and just kind of kept pushing. But okay, he goes back to d1. That's not the best move, but still the position is very nice to play. He tries to defend himself, but he's kind of overprotecting himself. That's why the computer thinks that black is now better. Now he brings the queen back, right? And we can sort of see at some point there's going to be a breakthrough. Now, this is like really alien level chess right here. In the middle of a game, in the middle of a closed position. By the way, how do you know the position is closed or open? Pawns. All right, you want to seem really intelligent? White here has all 8 pawns, so does black. Think of it like a fence, right? When you have a closed position, you can afford king moves. The king is going to walk to safety. Because, I mean, again, alien level chess. This is a million level chess, right? Like, this is And the king is just walking across the board in the middle of the game. King f2, king e2. Do not try this at home. Do not go play a game right now on chess.com and do this. It will not work. You will lose. Bishop goes back to g5. Black is sort of waiting. And there it is. The breakthrough has occurred. The sacrifice, the advanced a pawn, that pawn is going down to the edge of the board. Pawn takes b6. Rook takes b6. He's got 2 pawns for a piece, and he has compensation in the form of a pawn that's 2 squares away from promoting and becoming a queen. This pawn on d6 is going to collapse. Knight takes, it's a fork, or rook takes, trapping the queen. All of these things are threats. And I mean, look at that. That's just that pawn's a score away. And black is going to have to give up the rook. So now we get knight c8. This is where things get really crazy, because that pawn can just become a queen. He goes rook b7. So if that pawn had become a queen, black would have gone knight takes with 2 attacks on that queen and 1 attack on that queen, and black would have won one of the 2 queens back, which is absurd. But after rook b7, that's not possible anymore. And white just has 2 queens. I haven't seen this in high-level chess. In maybe mine, like, there's just 2 queens. This no longer works because this is check. So you are not able to take my queen. a8 queen. And I have news for you. That this is just the game that we're going to play now. I don't know what you expected when you clicked on this video, but white just has literally 2 queens standing around. Now, the material count is white is only up 2 points. How's that possible? Well, white gave up a rook, and friendly reminder, some time ago, white also sacrificed a knight. So white got some pawns, and then promoted a queen, but it cost them a rook and a bishop. But white has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So white has an extra pawn and a queen for a rook and a bishop. White's king is also in the middle of the board. Queen back to e7. And now we have to play alien chess, where white just has 2 queens on the board. Now, 2 queens is OP, because they are so powerful. The queen comes into c6, it's attacking the rook. And the thing about this position is, you are always ready to give the queen back. You are always ready to sacrifice the queen to win a rook and a knight and just play this position where black has nothing. Black is not able to create counterplay because your pieces are way too active. Rook is coming in, right, infiltrating and creating some really serious problems for black. So the threat of giving up one of the queens is always so strong that black has to play very, very carefully. All right, the queen comes back, and that's the wrong move. Vokhidov brings his queen from the corner. He should have apparently taken with the pawn, but he brings his queen from the corner, and now the position is equal. White just has 2 queens, healthy queens on the board. You cannot go here because that would open up this. Another mini lesson. Every time you make a pawn move in a chess game, anytime you make a piece move in a chess game, you control certain new squares and you give up control of certain other squares. Piece moves in chess affect the vision of every piece. You got to look, not every piece, but you have to look around and see how the vision of every other piece is affected. Obviously, that's not how the game ends. The game continues with rook a7 and queen c6. What's funny is that this repetition is possible, but now Vokhidov, despite having 2 queens on the board, is in a worse position. How does that even make sense? Bro has 2 queens. How does he not have 2 queen bonus? After queen g7, black has an advantage because the threat is knight e7, trapping the queen. But wait a minute, it's not trapped. It can go here. Well, after bishop f4, this queen is trapped. Bro. What? Wait a minute. But no, it's not. I can just move the king. Well, the point is, I win a knight. The thing is, if white just starts losing more and more pieces, it doesn't matter how many queens you have. Black is going to giga-fork you. This is a fork of a king, a queen, and a rook. So Vokhidov has blundered, and queen here and here, sorry, queen here and here is trapping the queen. This is unbelievable. The queen, a queen. Shugirov doesn't find that. He plays queen f6. Now the queen darts out of the way to give a little bit more space to the other one. I mean, this is what... The craziest thing is, this move is notated, not queen c6. Both queens could have gone there, so that's queen a c6. And then on the next move, this is q c d5 instead of q e d5. When have queens had multiple coordinates because two of them exist on the same board? All right, knight e7. But now these queens did a little bit of a jujitsu move, and now they've gotten into the e6 square together. Now, obviously, black cannot trade the queens. He backs up. And the problem, I think, for Shugirov in general is that in this position, he was not thinking offensively. He was not thinking that he can trap these queens and be combative, because these queens wiggle their way into the position. And now in comes Vokhidov with another attack. The bishop is targeted, h5, opening up lines to the king. This is one of the strangest games of chess that I've seen. Bishop drops back to f6. Vokhidov plays h5. Now we have d5, a counterattacking move in the center of the board. I mean, you only think white is better because of this. If I remove the evaluation bar, you have no idea what is going on here. But the computer thinks that white is much better. Vokhidov, right, is going to use his queens. He's going to use his knight. And I mean, you would kind of bet on the guy that has the two queens. But let me tell you, rook c6 looks like the queen is trapped. It's a miracle it's not. So knight e3, Shugirov is rolling the dice out here. I mean, he just, he has to sacrifice material to get the white's king. And in general, it's a good lesson. When you are losing and you don't know how to defend yourself, create chaos. It's one of the ways to defend is to create chaos in a chess game. Pawn takes c4. All right. Rook to b7 with an attack on the b2 pawn. He's just trying his best. He has 30 seconds on the clock. Every time black makes a move, he's gaining a little bit of time. b4 from Vokhidov, just advancing. Rook a7 now, right? You don't know what to do. You just got to go for your opponent's king. You never know if your opponent's going to blunder something and do something ridiculous. Now, knight takes d5 is played. Vokhidov is picking up material. He's now up 4 points. That is nearly decisive. That's nearly fatal. Knight takes f6 is a huge threat. Pawn takes g6. Knight takes e7. All these things are threats. Rook a2 check. The king goes forward. And as if, folks, we did not have enough memes, as if we did not have enough complications, as if we didn't have enough drama. In this position, Shugirov is ready to go down. You can't quite take, right, because of this. So Vokhidov starts doing unbelievable things. The way Vokhidov breaks out of the blockade, right? You got these rooks trying to hunt your king. Your king is kind of hiding behind the walls. Knight takes. Now he blunders. What he should play here is pawn to g3, limiting the mobility of this knight. But instead, Vokhidov goes here, and a major chunk of his advantage has been given back. But his idea was so heinous. Even this deep in the game, he is thinking creatively. He can just go here. He was probably worried about pawn to e4 check, which then activates the knight, and it's not clear at all where this king is supposed to go. It looks like you're getting mated. You are not getting mated. We have queen g5, f4, queen g3, and then you can play queen f3, sacrificing a queen, because you have queen f6, king h7, and you win a rook with a check in the end. And if this, obviously, there are some checkmates. I mean, this is alien stuff. Pawn to f4, and white to move, folks, in this position. White to move. The only move to get this advantage, 1-2-4. I told you, if you watch this video and you can guess along with the moves, you will become a 10,000 ELO player. This game is not over. White to move. You got two queens, right? Healthy. Can't take because of this pin. So what do you do here? How do we do something? What are we doing? Well, in this position, Shamsiddin Vokhidov wins the king of the hill and plays king to e4. This must be so demoralizing as a player with the black pieces. The fact that in the middle of a game, your opponent, who has two queens, royal, valuable pieces, you have to keep the king away from them because there's going to be forks, x-rays, skewers. Pins. Nope. Walk straight forward. And now the threat is very serious. So bishop g5 is played by Shugirov. And now pawn to g3. But the game is back to equal. This is crazy. Every move looks good here. Rook g2, pinning the pawn to the queen. The best move in this position is for black to slide out of the way. And the point is that you threaten stuff against the king. If white plays something like queen f5, this queen stops protecting e2, and bye-bye goes one of your queens. There's no easy move here for white. Knight takes f4, queen f5, rook e8 check, king f3. This is apparently an equal position because black has now opened enough lines to get to the white king. That is what white was trying to avoid a few moves ago. Pawn to g3 is ultimately the move chosen, and rook g2 is a blunder. Rook g2 is a blunder because white slides the queen out of the way, targets the knight, and now suddenly Shugirov just has all his pieces on the g-file. I'm telling you, this is what chess looks like when you fall asleep with a 39, 40, 41 Celsius fever. Like, pawn takes f4. Now this threat is created, but now it's just too late. He grabs the bishop. There is no useful attack for black. Anywhere you move, I'm going to block with one of the queens. And ultimately, all your pieces are boxed in a corner. It's just a matter of time. I wouldn't even be surprised, by the way, if something like pawn to b5 is a good move. You just can't hang your queen. Your queen's just straight up hanging. You could probably go here and still win the game. But queen d8 check is played. Knight back. By the way, that's a check. Just by the way, that's a check. And now the game ends with the king going to the middle. It's going to hide over here. And even though black can take a full queen, rook takes queen, full queen, this is not a good move because of rook f8, and you trade all the pieces down, and at the end, you have this. And you land yourself in a position with pawns just simply becoming queens. King d4, rook g8, gives a check, and Shugirov resigns here because he would have to trade off all his pieces or set up one of the most depressing defensive barricades I think I've ever seen in my life. And I wouldn't even be surprised if one of the best moves here for white is just to play b5. But the game is over. White wins. And they had to play 30 moves with 3 queens on the board. In a real game. This is a real competitive tournament game. But there was so much to learn here, even as alien as this was, such as you have to try to open up your opponent's king when things are getting dire and desperate. Shugirov got the game back from plus 4.5 to equality because it was difficult for white to navigate, all because he went for the opponent's king. It's a messy position. It's super complicated, but there's absolutely stuff to learn here. Even kind of as we go down the line. A lot of very interesting pawn play in this game, you know, using pawns as they did to create space, pawn structures, pawn complexes. So this is how you ascend in chess to 10,000, all right? This is how you're going to beat all your friends, family, all right? Spouse, partner, love interest, sneaky link, dog, cat, sibling, math teacher, history teacher, science teacher. Do music teachers play chess? I don't know. But this was, when I saw that this was a real game played between 2 real people, and I was like, this is crazy. I mean, I don't even. So that's all I've got for you today. This is how we ascend in chess. You gotta, you know, this is alien level chess. I hope you enjoyed. I don't usually just boot up a random solo chess game coverage on this channel, but sometimes it's so ridiculous I kind of have to. Yeah. Play like this. I mean, don't. It's not going to work out as well. But that's all I've got for you today. You know where to find me. You can check out Chessly if you haven't already. We've got new courses being added this month, every month, basically. All Access Pass gets you every single course. 3 or 4 more courses will be dropping later this month. Four-Night Sicilian, Rui Lopez, etc. And I'll be on tour in Europe in May. Tickets are in the description. Get out of here.